you are first learning to wakeboard, it can be enough of a challenge not only to get up and out of the water every time, but also just to stay up riding behind the boat without falling. Even with this part mastered, you can often struggle or be discouraged by the thought of navigating a path while the boat is turning around. On long rivers and large lakes, beginners might be able to dodge navigating these turnarounds, but at some point the inevitable will happen and you'll be forced to learn this seemingly daunting task. In this video, we'll make it easy for you by discussing all the different places to be behind a boat during a turnaround, along with their advantages and disadvantages to help you have a better idea on what path will be best for you. First thing I want to talk about is your awareness out on the water. I know oftentimes you may be concentrating hard on just trying to stay up or simply just enjoying the ride and soaking it all in. This is totally fine, but there are a few other things you'll need to keep an eye on: your driver and your surroundings. Your driver, if they are courteous, will oftentimes give you some sort of signal letting you know that they are about to turn around. Usually if they give you this signal, they plan to turn around whether you're ready or not, so it's good to be ready. Also, watch your surroundings ahead of the boat in regards to the shoreline or other boats. Being aware of these factors can give you a good heads up on when the driver plans to turn around. The reason why I bring this up is if you are ready for the turnaround, you will be able to notice whether the boat is turning left or right, which can greatly affect where you may want to be behind the boat or on the wakes during the turnaround. Regardless if the boat is turning left or right, there are 6 different positions behind the boat in which you can navigate the turnaround. Depending on your skill level, you may want to choose your path carefully so you don't take a bad fall. The first position we will talk about is directly behind the boat in the middle of the wakes. This can often be your safest choice. The rope's line tension will not be too great or too little, and the size of the rollers will be at their smallest. Hanging out here throughout the entire turnaround is pretty easy as long as you stay on the prop line and in the very middle. Even though you are between the wakes, doesn't mean that you are right in the middle, which brings us to our second position, right on top of the wakes. Whether this is done on the inside or outside of the wake, it is not a good choice regardless of your riding ability. While riding at these 2 positions, the wake of the boat will at some point cross over the boat's previous rollers. When these wakes collide, they often become very steep and very wavy, so use caution and avoid these 2 positions if you can. The next 2 positions we will talk about are the 2 extremes, one being on the far inside of the turn and the other being to the far outside of the turn. Being out in the flats while on the inside of a turn can really slow your overall speed down and create lots of slack in the line. The result is that you can sink in the water, creating more drag on the board, and this can cause you to fall. Along with that, if the slack in the line doesn't cause you to fall and you manage to hold on, when the slack comes out of the line, it can either pull you over onto your face or simply just rip the handle out of your hands. Try to avoid being too far to the inside of the turn. Now, being on the outside of the turn in the flats does the exact opposite. Line tension increases as well as your speed. This is due to the centrifugal force and what we call being on a whip. Even if you are not very far out in the flats, being on the outside of a turn can send you out there faster than you may want. If you do not have good board control, I advise not doing this for beginners because the end result can be a high speed, high impact wreck. Intermediate to advanced riders often do this for fun, and once good board control is improved, some cool things can be done on a whip. The last 2 positions we will discuss are just to the outside of the wake in the trough, either on the inside or the outside of a turn. On the inside of the turn, the line tension will be at a minimum due to there not being a great deal of centrifugal force on the rider. If you stay in the trough next to the wake, you will still have to deal with some large rollers. Instead, hang out in the trough throughout most of the turn, keeping an eye on the upcoming rollers. As the boat starts to cross the rollers, begin edging slowly to the inside of the turn and then flatten off just before crossing the rollers. This will keep you at a slower speed and make the absorption of the rollers much easier. When being on the outside of the turn just outside the wakes, you will have to fight the centrifugal force from whipping you out a little more. Along with that, the rollers will be a bit larger than the inside rollers. Dealing with rollers in either one of these positions, near the wake on the inside or outside of the turn, you will have an easier time riding through the rollers if you have your knees slightly bent, and as you go over each roller, let your knees bend even more so that you really absorb the rollers. For beginners, we advise not being right on the transition of either wake as well. When the wake meets the rollers, it will cause the wake to become very steep and can be very difficult to maneuver, and will usually make you fall. Once you have good board control, are comfortable with doing re-entry jumps, and with proper timing, you can really start to have fun and get creative with this part of the turnaround. Alright, that's it. Now you're ready to turn around with the boat. Knowing how to navigate behind the boat while it's turning around can really increase the length of your rides, help reduce the chance of needless hard falls, and boost your confidence, ensuring that you'll have a better time out on the water.